Hey, what's up everyone? Welcome back. Today we're talking all about the Bondi 8, which HOKA says is going to be a game changer of a shoe. But we're also going to compare it to the Bondi 7 and the Bondi X and see how it stacks up against its predecessors. The Bondi 8 takes a lot of inspiration from the 7 and from the Bondi X. It's kind of a mix of these two shoes. It obviously does not have the carbon plate though that the Bondi X has, but it takes a lot of the things from the Bondi X that were pretty big improvements over the 7. And quick disclaimer, I do want to let you know that HOKA sent me this shoe for review, and actually all the shoes that you're going to see in this video. I just hit 50 miles in the Bondi 8. I've got over 50 in the Bondi 7, and then I've got almost 200 in the Bondi X. I really love this shoe a lot. And in fact, last year, this was one of my favorite shoes to run in on the roads. First off, the Bondi 8, you have to talk about the stack height. It's got 33 millimeters of stack in the heel and 29 millimeters of stack in the forefoot, giving you a drop of 4 millimeters. This is definitely a max cushion shoe. When I weighed the Bondi 8 in my size 11.5, it came out to 12.74 ounces, which is 361 grams. This is definitely not a light shoe. It's definitely not designed to be light. It's meant to give you max protection, max cushion out there on pavement. Let's talk about the fit. For me, size 11.5, the length fit just fine. Now, the place where I tend to have some problems with some HOKAs is the width of the forefoot. And the Bondi 8 is no exception to that. Bondi X fixed some of those problems for me. As I already said, the upper was a much better fit. And with the Bondi 8, I'm happy to see that it did take some of that geometry from the Bondi X, but it is also still really narrow in the forefoot. And I usually don't get blisters or hot spots in road shoes, but I did get a couple hot spots on the inside of my big toe on both shoes. On my last, I did a 10-mile tempo run, and I was getting a little bit of pain here on the inside of my big toe. It didn't turn into a full-out blister, but it was a pretty hot spot. Aside from the sizing, the comfort is excellent. Around the collar of the heel, we have some memory foam. So if you squeeze it, you can kind of like let it go and you can like feel it like slowly come back. I've also got memory foam in the tongue. And so when you put this shoe on and you lace it up, you can get a really snug fit that just feels really good. Now, if you look at this shoe from the top down, I've kind of an interesting shape here. We've got a very narrow upper, like this almost like looks like a track shoe, like if you look at it from the upper. But then we have a really wide base that swoops out from this midsole. So you get a really super wide landing in your forefoot. And compared to the 7, you definitely get a lot more coverage on the forefoot. The heels are pretty much the same. In fact, speaking about the outsole just for a second, the outsoles are very, very similar. Like there's some minor kind of cosmetic differences, a few slightly different angles with these cutouts, but for the most part, the outsole is the same except for the Bondi 8 having a wider landing in the forefoot. When you compare the Bondi 8 with the Bondi X, you have a little bit less rubber coverage on the Bondi X, but the landing of the outsole is very similar. So overall, the fit was fine. However, it was a little bit tight on long runs in the forefoot. So when you order from Running Warehouse or if you try it on in a store, definitely make sure you pay attention to this area right around here. Actually on both sides, depending on kind of like how your foot is shaped. It is a little bit more of a narrow forefoot. Now let's talk about the ride of the Bondi 8. This is a new foam from HOKA, although they don't really specify a name for it. I can say though that it was very comfortable, and I actually really liked this foam. And if you're thinking about a max cushion shoe, you might be thinking, man, this shoe is just going to I'm going to sink into this midsole and it's going to be super plush, but it's really not. It's really it kind of surprised me how it was just a little bit more firm than I expected, but it gave me the support that I felt like I needed out. And the shape of this heel for people that do heel strike is going to really help a lot compared to the 7. The 7 was pretty much just a straight drop off down here at the back, but with the 8, you have an extended heel, a lot more like in the Bondi X, although not as big. So you're going to get a little bit extra protection here, shock absorption. For me, the geometry was just okay. It's a 4mm drop, so it's not super aggressive. I didn't feel like the shoe was launching me forward or anything. I felt like I had to do a lot of the work, which is fine. It's kind of how you want an easy day to go. You don't want to kind of be tempted to really start getting into those tempo paces. So for me, it was just fine. The foam was nice and predictable, and it was soft enough that I felt like I could go longer miles had I maybe had a slightly better fit through the forefoot. When you're thinking about performance of a shoe, you have to think about what it's designed for. And the Bondi 8 is designed for long miles, easy days. It's meant to maybe be a marathon shoe if you have one pair of shoes. Like, this is the shoe that can kind of do it all. It's not meant for really like speed work or tempo days unless this all you got. For me personally, I wouldn't do any type of tempo work or like fast running in this shoe, and that's mainly due to how wide the base is and just kind of like how big the midsole of this shoe is. Again, if you look from the top down, it's just a really wide shoe. The midsole doesn't get in the way of anything, it's just a big object underneath your foot, and you notice it. If I was gonna do anything a little bit faster, I would want something just a little bit smaller. And this is kind of typical with me and Hoka. I would kind of almost always wish that they would just narrow the midsole down just a little bit. This is a really wide landing area, and again, it doesn't get in the way of anything, but it's this extra material down there that you feel on every step. But the one good thing that comes out of having a really wide base is that you get a lot of stability in the rain. Or say you had to take this out on trails, like maybe you did a road run where in the middle there was a few trails or something that you wanted to hit up. This is actually really, really good for that. And I was able to do that once while testing this shoe in the first 50 miles. I did take it on some trails in the middle of a road run, and it did fantastic. Like, this pattern and this design is sort of comparable to some trail shoes out there that are on the market right now. Speaking of weather, is that the upper is pretty thick. Like, it's not only is it a thick boy in the midsole, it's also thick up in the upper. All around, you've got a lot of this memory foam. The tongue is really thick. So I did notice that, especially on some of my longer runs during the middle of the day. The shoe did get really hot. Last up, let's talk about appeal. As always, I will say the Bondi 8 is a major improvement over the Bondi 7, at least the color that Hoka sent. I will say though that checking out the women's colors online, I like them quite a bit better. I do think that this swoop here is really cool. I'm really a big fan of that. It just catches your eye. It just looks really, really good. Outsole, nice contrast, orange and white. I'm okay with this design. I think it's cool. It's fun to run in. All right, last up, my reaction. What do I really think after my full review of the Bondi 8? I'm gonna go with this is a yes. Like, I really like this shoe a lot. For me, I had a few fit issues, but I think a lot of people, especially if you're a fan of the Bondi 7, this one is gonna be just fine for you, the upgraded version 8 in 2022. I will say though, the price, $165, is just a tad higher than I would like to see. I would have liked to see this shoe closer to maybe 145, maybe 140. For me personally, I think this shoe is going to get you 500 miles easy. It has a lot to do with your foot strike and how you wear out this outsole, but the rubber seems strong after 50 miles. I'm not getting any wear and tear anywhere. The memory foam seems still nice after 50 miles, like no breakdown anywhere in the tongue. I'm not getting any pressure points or hot spots, anything to be concerned about. So all that being said, I think this is definitely a shoe that you should check out. If you do choose to purchase a pair of the Bondi 8s, anytime you shop at Running Warehouse using the links below, they throw me a few pennies, so that's nice. It's one of the best ways that you can support me and this channel and what I'm doing here. But that's it. If you're a fan of the Bondi line and you have any questions about this year's version, the Bondi 8, definitely leave a question down below. I try to go through all the comments, especially in the first couple days, and answer everything I can. As always, thank you for watching, and I'll see you again soon. Bye.